All right, all right. I think I'm live. Can't see. Okay, I think I'm live. Peace, peace. Ikea me, the success scholar, the honorable one. That's right. Finishing the work of many of our greatest warrior scholars and teachers and builders. Just reflecting. Just have to drop a little bit of knowledge here today. Yes, you read it right. Don't let any fake Bibles, so-called scholars, or hotepers steal your steal or pimp your woman. Now, for the young brothers who may not necessarily know what I'm talking about, there's a type of hierarchy. There's a type of pecking order, if you will, or this alpha male phenomenon where males submit to other males, right? And we see it out there in the animal kingdom where one particular lion male will have all or his choice of the women, right? And none of the other males question that authority, right? Now, we don't live in a particular animalistic, some might argue, society where individuals can just, or yes, I'll say individuals can just go and pick whatever woman that they want. But I am here to tell you that unfortunately, uh, the reality is that many men allow for themselves to be placed on such a small level, such an inferior position. Black men in this society get positioned as a throw behind, as a inferior intellectually, educationally uh, being, or economically less, based upon one's intellectual skills, one's level of social acceptance, based upon their abilities to produce and provide, right? So, what you have, for instance, is when black men are not allowed or have not been in positions to provide food, clothing, and shelter, education, medication, self defense, they, in fact, are perceived as being less, as being weak, as being obsolete, right? And we can see it first and foremost within many churches and religious institutions, where, for instance, an individual's black woman may be uh, more endearing to their pastor, right, instead of their husbands. Now, let me break that down in terms of what that means in the concept of these so-called conscious communities, right? And I've experienced some of this type of pimpology, this type of I'm the elder, do what I say, cult uh, uh, organizational structure, community, whereby many of the men submit, for instance, to the will of the community and the leader, and the leader of the community and the women that need food, clothing, and shelter, education, medication, self-defense. So with that being said, for instance, I've heard a case of Dr. York in New York that apparently or appearingly or allegedly, shall I say, that's the proper word, allegedly would, I guess, commandeer the women of some of these brothers that attempted to join the community, right? And I've heard some cases rather recently of some brothers engaged in some of the same type of strategies. Yes, I have to put it out there because this is real, and I just go back into some research. Many, for instance, that were part of Jonestown, some 47, 49% were black women. They made up out of the 900 some odd people, a large percentage of them were black women. Younger black women, influential, or those that are still searching for themselves, those still trying to find an identity, right? So you have situations, and it's, and it creates a dysfunction within the family. For instance, if black males are not are not in a position to provide for themselves, and then they come out of a church, for instance, or if they create or attempt to network with some others, many of these black men are attempting to establish nothing more than a pyramid scheme with women, right? And have the women financing their lifestyle because they have not developed the skills, attributes, and abilities to be economically viable and productive themselves, right? So, again, I've seen this with my own eyes. I've seen the level of lack of respect that black, intelligent, healthy, holistic, progressive black men may not necessarily have because of an egocentric maniac that wishes to create a type of brothel, if you will, or a type of cult under the leadership of a particular black man, or like a little small cadre of black men. And unfortunately, I'm seeing it's more common than uncommon, right? And, for me, having being a teacher being an upright, independent, conscious, organized thinking brother, I've reached a particular point where where I could not be another slave as many of these individuals sacrifice. I recall, for instance, one particular little cult that I've heard about and saw, that the leader, once the brother came to the community, he had a particular type of car, a 300, 300 was it Sebring? With not a hatchback, what they call it? Not a drop top. Convertible. Yeah. And the so-called leader of the convertible, I'm sorry, the leader of this particular cult, pay this bill. Shoot. The leader of the so-called cult, he got the car from them just like right after they got there. So here's the thing. I know some people, are good with rhetoric and they're good with getting people to follow weak individuals, getting these weak women mostly to be a follower, mostly younger women, impressionable women, mostly women who may not necessarily have a strong family structure or intellectually a strong family or just values and independence of thought, where these individuals can absolutely uh, destroy a family. And so I made it my business to not, be a victim, not end up poor, unhealthy, without resources, working a menial job, being a old, broken down, unhealthy brother with some crazy looking children, supporting a pimp cult leader. So again, this is why, for instance, I've stayed out of different cults that are certainly out here, certainly creating. I guess they're doing what they need to do to survive, and that's what that's what people do to survive. Latch on like a leech or a parasite. Parasite needs a host, and this is going on, unfortunately. It wouldn't be a particular problem if these organizations recognize the value of its members and showed sincere appreciation for its members. Just like, for instance, in a job, most people, you recognize leaders, and it's unfortunate that we don't necessarily have the quality intellectual intellectually well-rounded leaders out here in these in the so-called conscious communities or in the black communities. Unfortunate that too many individuals are mentally suffering and mentally bankrupt and morally bankrupt, if I may add. So what I'm saying is that it's time for real leaders to stand up, and if you are a brother looking for a community, don't be. And I know sometimes it's a tough decision. It's a tough call. And I don't want to suggests a woman stay in a situation that is not particularly the best.